Vietnam is a country located in Southeast Asia, with a population of around 100 million people. It has a long and complex history, shaped by various foreign invasions, colonization, and conflicts. Vietnam's history spans over 4,000 years, during which it has experienced multiple empires, dynasties, foreign invasions, and revolutions. The first Vietnamese state emerged in the Red River Valley in the 3rd century BC. This kingdom was called Van Lang and was ruled by the Hung Dynasty. The earliest recorded history of Vietnam dates back to the Red River Valley civilization, which emerged around 2500 BC. Over the centuries, various tribes and kingdoms emerged in Vietnam, including the ancient Cham and Khmer kingdoms in the south, and the Dong Sun culture in the north. The Red River Valley formed a natural geographic and economic unit, bounded to the north and west by mountains and jungles, to the east by the sea and to the south by the Red River Delta. The need to have a single authority to prevent floods of the Red River, to cooperate in constructing hydraulic systems, trade exchange, and to repel invaders, led to the creation of the first legendary Vietnamese states approximately 2879 BC. While in the later times, ongoing research from archaeologists have suggested that the Vietnamese Dong Sun culture were traceable back to northern Vietnam, Guangxi and Laos around 700 BC. In the 10th century, Vietnam was united under the rule of the Le Dynasty, which marked the beginning of a period of cultural and economic growth. This era also saw the spread of Buddhism and Confucianism, which became an integral part of Vietnamese society. Vietnam was conquered by the Chinese in 111 BC and remained under their rule for over 1,000 years, during which Vietnamese culture and language were heavily influenced by China. During the 10th century, the Vietnamese began to push back against the Chinese, and by the late 10th century, an independent kingdom emerged under the leadership of Ngo Quyen. In 939, he defeated the Chinese army at the Battle of Bac Dang, allowing Vietnam to gain independence. Over the centuries, Vietnam was ruled by various dynasties. One of the most notable was the Le Dynasty, 1009 to 1225, which saw Vietnam expand its territorial holdings and engage in artistic and cultural pursuits. The Tran Dynasty, 1225 to 1400, also made significant contributions to the country's development, including the construction of defensive fortifications and the establishment of a strong centralized government. During the 19th century, Vietnam became a French colony, known as French Indochina. The French colonial period witnessed significant changes in Vietnamese society, including the introduction of Western-style education, modern transportation infrastructure, and the growth of Christian missionary activities. However, the colonial regime was also marked by economic exploitation, political oppression, and social inequality. The French exploited Vietnam's resources and forced the people to work in harsh conditions. The Vietnamese people resisted French rule and called for independence, culminating in the August Revolution of 1945 in Vietnam. During the Cold War, Vietnam was divided into two parts: North Vietnam and South Vietnam. The Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975, saw North Vietnam fight against South Vietnam, the United States, and other anti-communist allies. North Vietnam ultimately emerged victorious, capturing Saigon, now Ho Chi Minh City, in 1975 and reunifying the country. In the 1940s, Vietnam was occupied by the Japanese during World War II, which was followed by the Vietnam War, a conflict between the Communist Vietnamese forces and the US-backed South Vietnamese government. The war ended in 1975 with the North Vietnamese victory, and the creation of the Unified Socialist Republic of Vietnam. Despite the end of the war, Vietnam continued to face economic and political challenges in the decades that followed. However, significant progress has been made in recent years, with Vietnam emerging as a major player in the global economy and a popular destination for tourism. Reunification. In 1976, North and South Vietnam were reunified under communist rule, with Hanoi as the capital. After reunification, Vietnam endured a period of economic hardship as the country transitioned from a centrally planned to a market-oriented economy. In the early 1990s, the government implemented economic reforms, called Doi Moi, that helped boost the country's economy. Today, Vietnam is one of the fastest-growing economies in Southeast Asia, with a rich culture and a large population of more than 95 million people.